Welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. I'm Steve Gibson.
And I am Ben Matlock.
My little bit of pause was because I almost called it the Enjoystick Podcast, which we haven't done in like 6
Nobody
years.
knows what that is except us.
I know.
Yeah.
But we had to come up with 2 shows that start with like the same syllable. And I'm just...
Not really.
Yeah.
Non and...
Nah.
Nah.
In. Yeah.
Those are different
I guess
sounds.
same letter. Yeah.
Just say it. You're old. And sounds confuse you.
Yeah, well, yeah. Sounds confuse me. Light confuses me.
I'm easily
Confusion
frightened.
confuses me.
Yeah. I tried to explain the internet to Steve before the show, and he started screaming.
That's what, when I start sounding like my dad, just put me out. He's always like, yeah, I opened the internet, but they've changed the internet on me. And it's like, it's a browser. And he's like, no, the internet. And it's like, that's not the...
No, the internet's changed.
And they still swear, both my parents swear that they access the internet through MSN. And I'm like, MSN's a fucking web page. Like,
they're not even that. I don't think. Like Microsoft changed all that shit, didn't they?
Yeah, I don't know what it's actually called now, but yeah, they like are under the impression that Microsoft default landing page that just gives you like aggregated news based on all the information that it steals on you. They think that's like how they get on the internet. It's like, no, whatever.
Yeah. Whatever. That's probably a healthier way to look at the internet as opposed to like how we operate on it.
Yeah.
So, welcome to the Non-Essential Podcast. You can tell the energy's fucking red hot today.
Woohoo!
On the show, we tell each other stories. Stories.
You said that kind of like the 60 Minutes guy or something. Like, on this show, we tell each other stories.
We tell each other stories of the bombastic nature of man.
Before we get started, we must warn you, if you are weak of heart or a child, you may want to crank it up and just end it all right now.
Crank it up and fucking end it. Turn it up and tune it out. Yeah, so last week you kind of put me on the spot because you were like, oh, Ben, if you bring a real topic next week, we'll have a whole month of real shows and you won't fall back on creepypasta bullshit. And when the gauntlet is thrown down, you can either rise to the occasion or you can do what I do best. And no, I'm fucking with you. I brought a real topic.
Fuck. I thought you were going to say, like, out of spite.
Out of spite.
Like,
well, I got 2 creepypastas. Both of them I've read before.
I'm going to read these ones in Latin. Good luck.
I'm going to alternate words and see if they make a coherent story.
Yeah, that would be, maybe that's avant-garde. Like, you know those word finds? It's like it's an audio word find puzzle. You just spout a bunch of noises and you got to try to pick out the words.
Yeah. So, I'll give a warning ahead of today's topic. There is some gore.
It's about Al Gore.
It's not the goriest story we've done, but if you don't like fucking bloody violent shit, there's a little bit of that. Because
and this is probably the wrong podcast if you don't like...
hey, maybe 188's the charm, and you'll learn to like it. But a lot of the sources on today's story repeatedly use the term badly hanged. So...
Well, I've got that on my business card, sort of.
Like as if there's a way to be hanged that works out for everyone, you know? I was like, I didn't think I would enjoy it, but this was actually probably the best death penalty I've ever had.
Thank you for making my execution. Yeah, can you rate your execution 1 to 5?
Yeah. But before, a horrible, painful dessert, we have to eat our vegetables and learn the history of our main character, Eva Dugan, who was born in 1878 in Salisbury, Missouri.
I like both the name Dugan and the town Salisbury because they're just.
Unfortunately, she gets away from there pretty quick. And maybe that's where it all went wrong. She could have had a simple life eating Salisbury steaks.
Yeah, ground hamburger with gravy.
Dying
or
at
whatever.
27 from heart failure.
27 weeks, by the way, not years. Yeah.
So, not much is known about her childhood, but she would get married in her young adult years, as so many women did back then. And she had a son and a daughter. And her husband would abandon the family, as so many men did back then.
Story as old as time.
Eva relocated to Juneau, Alaska, after heading north during the Klondike Gold Rush of 1896 to 1899. Now, when I hear people going to Alaska, I think that's pretty fucking far away in 2022. So
I know.
So for a single mom to pull that shit back in like late 1800s, that's, you know, she was definitely not rolling over because her husband walked out. Eva would support her family by becoming a cabaret singer and a prostitute. After some time there, she moved back south to Pima County, Arizona, where she took a job as a live-in housekeeper for an elderly chicken rancher, Andrew J. Mathis.
Now, okay, I forget where you said Salisbury was.
That's in Missouri.
So you go from Midwest to fucking Alaska to Arizona. She's like, let's just have all the terrible places.
Well, I could see Alaska just because it's like, you know, a gold rush momentum of like find the, you know, people wanted to go into the frontier and, you know, hopefully strike it rich and be successful.
And in fairness, out of the three places, Alaska's the one that most people I know that have lived there loved it. I mean, I don't like cold, so it would be really bad for me. But if you can do okay in the cold, and the summers are fine, and it's gorgeous. So I guess there's that. But I mean, it's just three extremes. Like she's getting around for an 1800s lady.
Well, I mean, you could play out. You can be on the bench, or you can live this life. And Eva,
that's true.
Eva lived it, and you only know if you hate a place if you go live there. Or you're like me, and you can just assume I probably don't like Texas. And then you did, and it's like, fuck, man, it's worse than I thought. So she started working for this chicken rancher, Andrew J. Mathis, and the two hated each other pretty quickly. Andrew hated Eva's cooking and just overall performance. Eva hated Andrew for being a demanding, abrasive asshole, which I'm a little shocked that after all this time, this was her first dickhead boss.
Well, maybe not. I mean, but that tells you something. If like you were a cabaret singer and a prostitute and your worst client is your chicken rancher boss, this guy tried to beat me to death once, but at least he was apologizing while he did it. You're just a dick.
Yeah. In another time, this dynamic probably would have got them a reality TV show. But alas, Andrew fired her and told Eva to leave his property. Accompanying Eva the past few days was a approximately 17-year-old boy who was just going by the name Jack, and he left with Eva. By the next morning, sometime in January of 1927, Andrew would be gone too, with some of his stuff, a Dodge Coupe, and his cash box gone as well. Eva and Jack tried to sell the cow and some of the chickens from the ranch, and then they bolted. Supposedly she had hired Jack to be the driver of the car. First they went to Amarillo, Texas, where she sold the coupe for $600. She signed the papers as Eva Mathis. Jack signed everything as AJ Mathis. They then bought tickets to Kansas City. As police searched for Eva, they found her father in California and a daughter in White Plains, New York. And they learned some stuff about Eva. She had apparently been married 5 times at this point, and all her husbands had disappeared.
I'm sure they just left town. Right.
Yeah, probably. One walked out on her. She was finally caught in White Plains, when a postal clerk intercepted a postcard for her from her dad. She was extradited on automobile theft charges. Jack would never be found. 9 months after her imprisonment, that's when they found Andrew's body, on December 11th, 1927. In probably the most fucked up moment in camping history, his body was found by an Oklahoma machinist who picked the precise spot to drive a tent stake into the ground and hit the body. At least he nipped any vampire shit in the bud.
Yeah. How do you know you drove your stake into a body, though? You're like, well, that didn't sound like dirt. That sounded like decomposing flesh.
Because there's a giant fucking stake wound in the body.
Well, no, but I mean, like, how would you know that you didn't just drive your stake in the ground? Like, where you're like, that didn't sound like ground. Let's dig it up and see what I hit.
Maybe it made a sound.
Oof. Yeah, he didn't drive. He didn't find the body. The guy was just sleeping, and he drove a stake.
Ow.
Oh my god, this guy was a corpse already.
I would love it.
You saw that, right?
Because, like, ow is such a minor, like, I'm hurt, but what if that's what you said when you got killed? It's like, ow.
That would 1,000% be me. Like, I'd get shot, and your only words are, ouch.
Yeah. I mean, there's a lot of shit like that. I've seen videos of, like, pro wrestlers when they've been, like, horribly injured, and you can hear them pick up on the TV mic, and all they say is something like, that hurt.
Their arms and the row 7 up there.
From their shoulder, it's just a noodle. So
drove a tent stake through the corpse.
Yeah. Eva would undergo a pretty short trial for murder then. It was mostly based off circumstantial evidence, but it was pretty much like, who the fuck else could have done it? Eva noted that Andrew believed that she had poisoned his breakfast food, which led to her getting fired. But she said that the old idiot ate rotten rabbit meat that had boils on it. Attempted poisoning or a jackass bit before it's time. You decide.
Yeah.
Eva admitted that she had sex with Andrew on a weekly basis and performed prostitution at the ranch. So Andrew wasn't, just some rancher. He was basically being a pimp. Who ate rotten rat ass for fun, apparently.
She's there's boils on it. He's like, yes, it's boiled rabbit. What do you think that is, you idiot? It's like, no, that's...
And then just like takes one bite. You idiot, there's boils on this. It's like, I told you that. Eva claimed that the boy Jack had accidentally killed Andrew with a retaliatory punch after he was beat for refusing to milk a cow. She claimed they both tried to revive Andrew, and when they failed, they loaded his body into the coop, and Jack drove it out and dumped it. He would return at 5 o'clock in the morning, and that's when they worked on their escape. The prosecution, however, made a pretty convincing case that Ava's story was bullshit, and that she actually done the killing with an axe. So, retaliatory punch or a giant axe wound. I feel like you would be able to make that determination.
Well, I don't know. The investigators back then are like, well, his head severed clean off, but it could have been one hell of a punch.
Yeah. Ava was pronounced guilty and sentenced to hang. Ava didn't...
Badly.
Badly. Very badly. Ava didn't lose her ornery swagger, though, telling the jury, well, I'll die with my boots on and in full health, and that's more than most of you old coots will be able to boast on. Now, I don't really know how you die in full health, but it's a great band name.
Yeah, and to be honest, one of the best parts of my day is taking my shoes off. I don't really necessarily want to die in my shoes. It's like, let me relax. Like, I want to die in my underwear watching, like, Bob's Burgers.
I don't. What? Why? I don't want to see people at my worst. I want to go down in like guns blazing.
Glory. Yeah. Well, I guess that would be another option. But I still want to do it in my underwear. Right?
Just lit up at the OK Corral. That's the Tombstone Snyder cut, is everybody's just in their fucking underwear.
For no, like it kind of made a joke on Twitter like this, but yeah, like just remake that movie and they're all just like in boxers, but nobody references it. Like it's not like they don't explain it. Nobody points it out. It's just like you act like it's normal.
There's that scene where Doc Holliday's like, I'm your Huckleberry. And it shows like the behind shot where he's like holding a gun. And like it's his tighty whities and there's a big shit stain. That'd be great.
Yeah, and like I said, but nobody references it. Like it's never made a joke or anything. It's just.
I mean, nobody wiped thorough back there. It'd be hilarious.
Oh, yeah. I don't think toilet paper was invented until like 1982.
Not the proper shit. You had to just steal somebody's stuff and wipe your ass with that, and be like, "Hey Bart, I wiped my ass with that." And be like, "Oh, you piece of shit." During Eva's imprisonment, she would charge for interviews, $1 each, and sold embroidered handkerchiefs that she knit. She also made herself a silk beaded jazz dress to wear for her hanging, but decided against it because she was worried the dress might get messed up. On one hand, that's hilarious. Yeah. On another, knowing how this story ends, she was probably fucking right to rock the cheap dress. By 1930, Time magazine called her Cheerful Eva for how upbeat she was for being on death row. However, Eva attempted the usual shit you also see people do when they're facing the death penalty. She appealed based on mental illness, which was denied, and her cell was searched to reveal a bottle of raw ammonia and 3 razor blades hidden in her dress the day prior to the hanging, so potential suicide was on the table. But her attitude outwardly never really seemed to change.
Doesn't it seem weird that you'd bother to stop the suicide? It's like, no, you can't kill yourself. We kill you. That's
how we talk about work. Capital punishment a lot, and it's mostly a place of vindictiveness. I'm not saying it's not understandable if you're a member of the family, but that the state is like, I decide how you die, is kind of weird.
Yeah. I mean, I could see like during your prison sentence leading up, you'd want to, not have them kick. What happens if it gets, communicated or they find out like, oh, wait, you're innocent. But yeah, the day before, if they're like, oh, no, you're not going out this way. You're going out that way. Yeah. Although, if she was smart, you'd find the razor blades. They'd be like, oh, suicide attempt. It's like, no, she was going to put a pneumonia in her mouth and spit it at the guards and then slash them with it. It was her escape plan. She was going to go like...
the warden actually made that claim that the poison or whatever, the ammonia, was just to like knock herself out. I don't know how she thought she was going to like survive the hanging being unconscious. Or maybe she thought like, I'll take enough of it, they'll move the body, before the hanging. I don't know what her plan was. Yeah. Wasn't the plan. I think she probably wanted to die. And maybe it was just that thing of like, maybe it wasn't so much how you die, just like, I don't want to wait for this shit. I could see that. Or you want to
go out on your terms and not their terms.
Well, just like if you know you're going to get killed 2 days from now, I could see the frame of mind where you're just like, well, I want to fucking just do it now. Fuck it.
Yeah, they're going to kill me before the next pizza day. There's no reason to stick around here.
So the night before her death, she sat at a card table with friends, occasionally caressing a farewell telegram from her daughter, and they played cards all night. Eva would request that her friends be served orangeade, and still kept some sense of humor about her situation, yelling to a guard, "Please bring on the orangeade. I want it now. Tomorrow will be too late." I for a killer, I kind of like Eva. Because she's just playing cards, joking about it. As the execution morning approached, Eva was led to the open space, to the death cell. She would smoke a cigarette and joke with the guards along the way, laughing and singing, "I don't know where I'm going, but I'm on my way." She kissed 2 of the guards at the door of the death cell, stating, "I love everyone connected with the prison. You have all been good to me, and I can't blame you for what the law is going to do to me."
Can you put that on Yelp?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there is the executioner. He has a lot to do with it. But sure. The guards were said to be visibly affected by this. Like, by this point, people fucking loved Eva.
So it's like the Green Mile, basically.
Yeah. And fuck Andrew. He was a greasy pimp.
I was going to say, and maybe we're going to go there at some point. We'll see where this part goes. But that's my biggest thing on capital punishment is just how unevenly applied it seems. Because we've heard of like, oh, well, this person murdered 4 people and they get 13 years in jail. It's like, what? And you're like, well, this woman murdered one guy that sounds pretty fucking abusive to her. Kill her.
Yeah. Climbing up to the gallows, she said to the guards, "Don't hold my arms so tight. The people will think I'm afraid." Again, I like Eva.
Yeah.
Quit, you're making me look like a bitch. The noose went around her neck, and she shook her head when asked if she had any final words. At 5:02, the trap clanged, and she dropped more than 6 feet. When the noose tightened, her head was severed.
Nice.
Eva's body collapsed, and the head rolled to the feet of the spectators. Blood spurted out for several minutes, and 2 women and 3 men fainted.
Oh, come on, guys.
Yeah.
Haven't you ever seen a person's head pop off before?
You knew when you came here there was a chance of this. Eva Dugan was the only woman to ever be sentenced to death by hanging in Arizona, and after this shit, she was the last.
I feel like she perforated her neck with the razor blades. That's what it was. She's like, I'm going to loosen this thing.
She made a tie out of them. So yeah, short one, but that's the story of Eva Dugan, and you know, a fucking
so we're not going to get any
hanging.
closure on. You said 5 husbands that just kind of like
they just disappeared. They don't know.
Yeah, I was expecting it to circle around and be like, oh, by the way, she murdered the crap out of all of them, but
no idea. No. I mean,
maybe
again, people sometimes just fucking left.
Yeah.
But
especially back then, I mean, it's not that people don't do it now, but now it's so much easier to keep tabs on people. Back then, it was like you could literally move to the next town over and nobody would have any fucking clue if you were just like kind of smart about it.
Yeah. But at the same time, if you were trying to kill some husbands, the fucking Alaska frontier was probably the place to do it.
Yeah, and it sounds like they never found Jack either, so like maybe she killed him as a witness or accomplice, like, haha, now I'll get rid of this guy.
Yeah. And then at the same time, I could totally see a scenario where it's like, all right, we get to Kansas City, then we split up,
Yeah.
Which is just what I would say to somebody I was planning to kill if they were an accomplice. It's like, nah, we'll split up and it'll all be history.
We'll say our final goodbyes under the moonlight in this completely abandoned warehouse.
This is the goodbye axe. I bring it with me every time there's a fond farewell.
I don't know if I've ever heard of somebody's head popping off.
That's the thing. It's one of those things where, like, I'm surprised. It's probably something that's been joked about a lot, but, how many times has it actually happened? Probably more than you think. But it's, as far as I know, this is the first woman.
And the idea of, like, the people in the crowd fainting, I get it. It would be pretty shocking to see somebody's head severed off in front of you.
It is kind of funny, though.
At the same time, like, had it gone as planned, it's really not that much better.
I was just going to say, you're coming to watch someone die, but then you're like, oh no, the gore.
Yeah, like, blood.
Yeah.
I can't handle that. I thought we were just going to see somebody spasm up there as they suffocate quickly to death.
Can you imagine how fucking thin that neck was, though? It's like,
well, that's what makes me wonder, too, if they used, like, too thin of a rope.
Like, just razor wire.
Yeah. Like, that's all we had is this barbed wire for the fence. But we forgot to buy rope.
But I would love to, like, be... If I had to, if I was being hanged, and, you're going to have a crowd of people just fucking ogling you, like, I want them to be traumatized. Fuck them.
Right.
Like, you're going to get the full show, motherfuckers.
Yeah, and I'd hope not only does my head roll to the edge of the stage, but that my eyes are wide open and my tongue's, like, sticking out at him, like, bleh.
I hope I shit my pants so violently my decapitated corpse rockets along the floor.
Your jaw's still going, la, 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 la.
And then we'll have a real talk about the death penalty, won't we?
Yeah, it's a complicated topic for me, but like I said, my biggest gripe about it is how it seems completely, like I said, you kill one person, not that it's like, we get a freebie, but it's like, how does one person kill one person in a situation where it sounds like it, I don't want to say warranted, but like it's almost understandable. And then somebody else is like, oh, they robbed a gas station and murdered like the whole family that was waiting in the car outside. And they're like, we're going to sentence them to 10 years. Yeah. It's like, wait.
Like, I get the emotion behind wanting to keep the death penalty, but we've talked about it before on prior episodes, but to me, like, you have to approach it from away from emotion and into logic, and the logic for me is very cut and dry, where it's like, if there's even the slightest chance that a person didn't commit the crime, then killing them makes you a murderer. Like,
well, and here's the thing,
there's too many instances where we find out, like, decades after that somebody was innocent, and it's like, you were about to kill them.
Well, not about, I mean, even there was, I should know his name because it's very important to history and it's a famous case. But there was it happens all the time. There was a 17-year-old that was executed for a murder back in like the 40s or 50s. And they just found out like in the last year or two through like DNA profiling. They're like, oh yeah, he didn't do it. I'm like, you killed a 17-year-old.
Yeah.
And I think it's easy. That's part of it. I think it's easy for us to say, yeah, but our system's pretty good. What's the chances that they'll get it wrong? Look into it. It's pretty fucking good. There's a lot of people in prison and on death row that didn't do it. Like,
yeah.
And then I think there's the assholes that are like, a lot of them are like, well, they were criminals though, so they deserve it kind of anyway. It's like, nah,
have you ever fucking run a red light?
Right.
Like, if your fucking backyard isn't perfect, I would shut the fuck up. And I would want, the justice system to, like, you can only have the death penalty if your justice system is flawless. And I don't know how other people feel about their countries, but here in America, nobody feels that way. So we should not be killing people through that system, because we're not good at it.
Clearly,
I mean, we're good at
without popping her head off.
we're good at killing, but we're not good at killing the right people. So,
but we're not even that. I mean, read into like botched execution.
Well, this story came because I Googled botched executions.
Your search has returned thousands of results.
There was a bunch.
Yes. Although I do like that. Back in like the Old West, there was kind of that rule, like if they tried to kill you and you lived, it's like, you get off scot-free now.
Yeah.
Like, but that just shows how arbitrary the death sentence was.
Yeah, that's the thing, is like, it's not perfect. Like, we have tons of people who should die walking, and we have tons of people dying who should have never been interrogated, let alone imprisoned.
And this is an example the other way, but the same kind of logic applies. Me and Tara have been watching, well, not say been watching, because there's only like 7 or 8 episodes total. So we watched the cold case files episodes that are on Netflix. And I think there's way more of them in existence than what's on Netflix, but, most of us know what cold case files is. It's a whole show about like these murders that went unsolved for a long time. And then like after they became cold cases, new people came in and were able to solve them. And well, one of the things is that some of these, they got to the end, they're like, oh, we solved them. I'm like, I don't know.
Yeah.
Like, it still seems pretty dubious. Like a lot of circumstantial stuff going in here. But even the ones that, like, there was one that they're like, oh, and it took 37 years, but we finally brought the killer to justice. It's like, he was 87 when you caught him. Yeah. He got to live his whole fucking life, and the person that he murdered was like a 14-year-old girl. If you gave him a hard
candy, he would have told you he did it. Like, that's not...
Well, and it's not really... I get that you want to make it sound like justice for the family to bring closures, but letting the killer live his whole entire fucking life and then catching him when he probably only had a year or two left on this earth anyway... That's really not justice. Like, he got to live.
I mean, that's fair, but that's also, like, I would want to know. Even if the killer walked, I want to know what happened.
Mine's more of a semantic argument. Like, I wouldn't call it justice. Right. I'd say closure, definitely.
I think we all have, like, watching shows like that and shit, though, like, I think we have this romanticized idea of detectives from, TV, whether it's like true or fiction, but in there, you imagine like the grisly detective who's been working on the case for weeks and shit. And like, it's this huge chronology, but most murders are kind of, in a fucked up way, they're kind of handed to the cops. Like,
oh yeah.
Not to say they don't do a job, but it's like, I've told stories on here about those serial killer documentaries I've had where it's like, one, they killed a ton of people before you caught them. And then, some dumb happened and you were able to just go knock on their door.
Right. Well, that's why most of the murders, there's a way more unsolved murders, I think, than a lot of people really care to think about, because the ones that get solved, it's generally because the motive was very clear. It wasn't that hard to find out. Yeah. Who killed them?
Usually domestic.
And even if it was a stranger, and if it's usually somebody they know, so it's easy to track. And even when it's a stranger, it's because it was a robbery, and you end up catching them because you can track the stuff that was stolen.
Yeah.
And that's why serial killers are serial killers, and that's why so many of them get away with it for so long. Because if it's a truly random murder, it's very fucking hard to trace that stuff back. Yeah. It's getting easier with DNA profiling and stuff, but even then they have to have if you've never been in trouble, if your DNA is not on file, you can leave as much DNA as you want. It's not like your DNA carries your name and address in it, but
actually it does.
Yeah. Thanks to Bill Gates and all his microchipping.
Yeah.
But
not his fault. I hate his microchips, but
it's neither here nor there, though, because none of it has to do with heads popping off in a hanging.
Yeah,
like
it's all connected, man. All of our episodes are connected.
To be fair, I really thought when you started with like, because I think I both probably read about these when you say it was badly hung. There was a lot of times they would hang people and it wouldn't kill them instantly, and that was almost worse.
Yeah, if your neck didn't break and you're just like choking,
right?
And that's pretty brutal.
And sometimes even then you don't asphyxiate, so they have to like unhang you and like rehang you or finish you off in some way.
Yeah.
Unless it was like the Old West, like I said, and they had that rule. They're like, well, your neck's dislocated and you're paralyzed now, but you live. Congratulations. You're a free man. It's like, kill me now. So that's what I thought you were going. But if I was being hung, I'd sure as hell rather have my head like snapped off and die pretty much instantly as opposed to like that other botch.
I thought that wasn't true. I thought like there was like 5 seconds or something where you're still aware.
My understanding is that that's kind of like what they assume, but there was no real way to test that. When I say assume, I don't mean like they pull it out of their ass. I think it's like probably right. But the other thing is that I do know enough from enough other stories that it's like your brain might technically be functioning for 5 seconds, or I've heard as much as like 13 or even 30.
Well, there's only one way this can be settled. Tune in for the non-essential guillotine hour.
Well, where I was going with it is, so like, even if your brain's technically still firing, like the body goes into shock, I would imagine. Cause like we know that from other, like where people actually
at that point, I don't give a fuck about the body though. It's not a part of me anymore.
Well, by body, I mean your brain. You're probably not like sitting there like me and you, like processing what's going on.
You're looking back at your own body and being like, God, I got fat.
God, it was a fat, yeah, pasty. I knew I should have tanned before this.
Ass.
Yeah, I deserve this.
Can you cut it off again? I hate me.
Oh, damn it, I shit myself.
Ah, look at it. God damn it. You know what? That's on you. I tried to go to the bathroom.
You should have said no when I requested Skyline Chili as my final meal.
You should have said no on principle. I heard that shit's gross.
It is. It's very. Oh, but I think that would be my last like act of like defiance. I'd eat like the worst possible stuff to have in your stomach before they're going to kill you.
What would I? And then at least meal?
And then at least your final moments, instead of being preoccupied about them about to kill you, you'd be like, I'm going to shit myself. You'd be like trying to hold it in.
Yeah, I have the perfect plan. So one of my favorite foods of all time is chicken Alfredo, but it always makes me constipated. So time bomb. I eat that as my last meal. You think it's all good. Like 20 minutes later, my ass just explodes.
They get you back to the on the autopsy table at the medical, because they always still take you there.
Yeah.
Like, we're here with the patient or the subject, Ben Matlock, and oh my God, is it shit? Oh my God, it's shitting. Oh my God, get a bucket. Get 2 buckets.
Scientists would spend years trying to figure out what the fuck happened. So yeah, put me on death row if you dare, motherfuckers.
If you dare.
All right, that's the story. I'm out of stuff. Any final thoughts?
No, not really. I don't think I had any initial thoughts, to be fair.
We'll be back next week with another fucking tale of shit and poop.